This conference will now be recorded.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you remember, like last class, we were talking about storage management in Azure and how to create storage accounts and how to manage storage in Azure. What are the different storage possibilities available in Azure? So let me quickly take it through. Yeah. So basically, we talked about blobs. What is blob storage? What are the different types of blobs and all? We discussed a little bit about tables and all. We discussed about queues. So I think today we will talk about CDN, Azure SQL, and Redis Caching. And
Okay.
if time permits, we will go into Azure AD also.
Okay.
So let me deep dive into CDN first of all. So if you remember, so content delivery network is a distributed network of servers that can efficiently deliver web content to users. So it has got different point of presence locations around the world, through which basically they will do some kind of they will do a kind of caching and deliver the content, which is mostly static in the web pages, to the users. Right. So this is how it was looking like. So say for example, one person is trying to access the content first time. So first time it will go to the origin server, it will pick the content and it will store it in edge servers.
Yes.
And when other users are trying to access it, they will get it from edge servers only. So I think we went through the demo, right, for CDN?
Yeah, I think CDN is completed.
Okay. So then we will jump into Azure SQL. So whenever anybody talks about SQL database, so normally they will think about like we'll have a machine somewhere where you will install the SQL server, and the SQL server will give you a server with basically SQL in it installed with all the services running, and a SQL Server database in it. So the database will be the one which will be having all your tables, stored functions, stored procedures, functions, and everything. And the server is the one which will be maintaining all your services and running all your services required to function the SQL. Right. So in case of Azure, so you can have both actually. So if you're going for an IR server, so if I want to go for, say for example, my SQL team needs a SQL server with the virtual machine, then what I'll do is I'll provision them a virtual machine with SQL installed in it. Right. So it will be basically like they will be RDPing to a server in which SQL will be installed. But say for example, my team says like I don't want to maintain a server. I need just the SQL database. I don't need a server. I need basically SQL like a PaaS offering. So then I will be going for Azure SQL. So Azure SQL database is again a relational database, or a DBaaS they call it, and based on the latest stable version of Microsoft SQL Server database engine. So SQL database is, as you know, is a high performance, reliable, and SQL database you can use to build data-driven applications and websites. So in any of the programming language of your choice, without needing to manage the infrastructure. So this is the important part here. That is without needing to manage the infrastructure. So like I said, you don't need to manage a virtual machine. I'm just going to have a SQL server created.
Okay.
Right. So when I say server, it doesn't mean actual server somewhere. It's actually a virtual machine internally, which will be managed by Microsoft. So all the PaaS offerings, if you see, so internally Microsoft is creating some virtual machines and hosting our services in there. So Microsoft is managing those virtual machines. Hence, we are not given the privilege to go into the virtual machine or look into the services and all. So those things we don't need to worry about. We just need to worry about.
So it is also a virtual machine where you have SQL, but actually you can't log into the virtual machine. It works as a PaaS, yeah?
Yes. All the PaaS offerings, let it be Azure SQL, let it be web and mobile services, or let it be app services, logic apps and all, everything internally Microsoft will be having a virtual machine, because without a machine you can't deploy a service. Right.
Yeah.
So those, if the machine is managed by you, it is IaaS. If it is managed by Microsoft, it is a PaaS.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, when we talk about database or SQL Server or Oracle and anything, so we'll be talking about database transaction unit, or a DTU. So normally, in case of virtual machines, we measure by the number of cores and how much memory is present in the machine and all, right? But in case of a database, you can't have a core and you can't measure by the memory.
Hello.
So what they use is a database transaction unit. So basically a measure of CPU, memory, and input-output transaction of the data, and transaction log, which is kept in the particular server. and
Okay.
in ratio determined by an OLTP benchmark. So OLTP is basically your online and transaction processing. So this benchmark is defined to measure that, okay, if I want a 5 DTU database or I want a 10 DTU database, so based on that, my database size is actually increasing. Right, so doubling the DTU, by increasing the performance level of a database equates to doubling the set of resources available to the database. So if
What
I am
this
having a
means
5
actually?
DTUs, so basically the DTU, or they call it a database transaction unit. So internally it is a calculation of your CPU, your memory, your data input output, and transaction logs input output, whatever you are keeping in the particular SQL. Right, so you can't measure like how many cores are there or how much memory is there from outside, but through
Okay.
a database transaction unit. So say for example, I have a 5 DTU server, SQL server. So then my server size will be like the smaller one. If I'm having a 10 DTU server, that means it will have a bigger CPU, it will have a bigger memory, and the input output will be better.
So my
Right, so
database size will be into 2.
yeah, so whatever DTU you are using, so let it be a 5 DTU, 10 DTU, 20 DTU, or maybe even more. So that means you're using a better performing or a better powerful SQL server. And
Okay,
so
now, but
normally, like,
how will I calculate the sizing if I use 5 for example 5 virtual machines, and for that I want to set up a SQL database. So calculating this 5 SQL sorry 5 VMs, then I will be creating a SQL database for it. So what will be the size? Then I'll calculate it into, so 5 into double or something like that.
yeah, so not exactly in that way, but see, say for example, here when I'm talking about Azure SQL, you don't have to
Okay.
worry about the virtual machine. So say for example, say for example, your application team is building an application, and they say like we need a SQL server or SQL DB to store the data. So you
Okay.
can ask them, what do you expect your size of the application? How much do you expect the growth of the application? Like 1 year time, or 6 months time? How much input output is going to happen? So if they're saying like, okay, I need like 10,000 transactions, or I need like 5,000 transactions. So based on that transaction, you will be specifying your DTU unit. So let me go into the demo so that will clear things up. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So Azure SQL database versus the SQL server on virtual machine. So in case of Azure SQL, it's a cloud database as a service, and here it is a on-premise kind of SQL server basically.
Okay.
So this is fully managed by Microsoft, and the built-in scalability, redundancy, all those things will come with Azure itself by default, and ideal for new cloud-based applications. So all these applications you see like Ola or Uber or whatever applications right now, Facebook, WhatsApp, so everything will be running with Azure SQL.
Okay.
So this is ideal for scenarios where full server control is required. So this will be mostly like client requirements where, say for example, banking and all is there, or like mine pharmaceutical and all is there, where they have a high compliance and GXP and all comes into picture. So that time they may need for a virtual machine. Otherwise, you can go for a Azure SQL database. So this, all virtual machines, requires more maintenance and administration. Okay, so basically under Microsoft Azure, you can go for SQL database, or you can just search for it in new. So here I can go for create a SQL database, or I can add a SQL database, and I'll give it a name, say my database, and I'll give it a subscription, whatever I have. So resource group, again, I need to create a resource group, or if I have already planned resource group, I can put it into that.
Okay.
So for source, if you see, like there are 3 options here. So one is a blank database. So blank database is normally like somebody has come for a new requirement and you're giving them a blank one. So they will start building all the tables and structure and keys and everything. But say for example, somebody wants a POC and they say like I need a sample database with some data in it. So you can create them a sample AdventureWorks database. So AdventureWorks is normally a fake company created by Microsoft for giving demo and all and showing people like AdventureWorks, and I think another one is Contoso. So these two will be used mostly by Microsoft. So you can have that. So if you have a backup of a SQL DB, let it be from on-prem or from online, so that also you can use as a source and create your SQL database.
Okay.
Okay, so once you select this, so next will be to manage the server. So you can go inside the server and click on this configure require settings. So here you can create a new server. So you'll give it a name, proper name, so admin login and password and all, location where you want to be,
Okay.
and that's it. So now you'll have a SQL Server configured. So if you want to use a elastic pool or not. So elastic pool is nothing but basically when you're putting your server inside an elastic pool, that means it will have more scalability and more what do you call it, like if anything, first thing is scalable, second thing is availability. So both of these will come to you when you're putting it in an elastic pool. So elastic pool is basically like a cluster of servers and all. SQL servers is there, and inside that you will be getting a particular cluster, and in that you will be deploying your applications. But normally, if you're not going for an elastic pool, like when you're building it, say for my dev project and all, or I'm building for someone for a POC, so that time I don't have to go for elastic pool. So I can go for a normal SQL server only. So now coming to pricing tier. So here, if you see, so the basic one is basically 5 DTU. Okay, so standard one is 10 to 100 DTUs, and premium one is 125 to 4000 DTU. So premium RS will be like 125 to again 1000 DTU. Right. So basically, the DTU will calculate your storage. So 5 is basic and 2 GB storage and all, and it will show you like, okay, this much will be charged. Right. So once, say for example, 5 DTU and 2 GB server you are selecting. So if you're going for a standard one, you can increase it from 2 GB to maybe 5 GB or 10 GB server. Right. So basically, you're calculating here how much storage and what will be the transactions, number of transactions you are going to use. So infrequent access and less demanding workloads, 5 DTU. So most production workloads, 10 DTU. So for IO and compute intensive workloads, so 125 to 4000 DTU.
Okay. Okay, so based on the pricing, the DTU will be calculated, yeah?
Yeah. Okay, so again, so coalescence is nothing but something like you're just collating your clusters into one particular coalition, so that you can give it a name as per your need. And once you create it, you'll have a SQL database created. Right. And if you go inside the resource group, say I created with SQL, so I can see like I have a SQL server and a SQL database. So two things I have now. So this is my server, this is my database.
Okay.
Right. So database will be the one which will store all my tables, store procedures, functions, and everything. And this DB is present inside this particular SQL server.
Okay.
So if you go inside the database, so you can see like elastic pool is not configured, or you can see the connection strings here. So database connection strings, if you click it, so you'll get the basically ADO.NET or JDBC or ODBC. So whatever connection language your application team is using, so based on that, you can give them a connection string. And using this connection string, they will be connecting to your application. So one thing you need to note here is, so if you see here, the user ID is specified as your username and password is specified as your password. Right, so here if you see this, okay, so your username and your password. So here you need to create them a separate user ID password, or the admin password which you have selected, you can give them. But normally it is not good practice to give the admin one. So it is always better to create a separate username password or a RBAC control and all and give to them. And so basically whatever admin password and all you created, if you give it here, this connection string is going to work. And normally, like how in .NET and all, they connect from the .NET application to SQL and all. Same way, they can create the tables, they can access the tables and store the data.
Okay, so but ADO.NET is it is something like ODBC, yeah?
Yes. So ODBC is for Oracle. So ADO.NET is for Microsoft.
Okay.
So JD is for Java, and similarly PHP. Okay, so even you can set a server's firewall here, and basically like here you will be specifying all the IP address or basically the IP configuration. So say for example, I want to add this IP address with the start IP and end IP, so that people from these particular IP address only should be able to access the SQL server.
Okay,
And
between
so
that
basically,
range,
so if you go for a .NET application with, you can change the authentication here. So what will happen is you can say like, okay, individual user accounts I want to have in my SQL server. So for applications that store user profiles in a SQL Server database, users can register or sign in using their existing account or Facebook, Twitter, Google, Microsoft, whatever is required. So here in the connection string, you need to specify your name of the connection, that is a default connection, and the connection string you can specify here. So all this will be done in the web.config of that application.
Okay.
And then when you load your application and go inside register, and whatever details you're giving it here and clicking on register. So basically it will register your, it will show like this person, hello Mike, or whatever it is show. So this data is actually getting stored in SQL Server. So you can access the SQL Server using any SQL Server tool like SQL Server Management Studio, or you can access it using Visual Studio itself. So if you go into tools, you can see like it's having a query editor here itself, or you can open in Visual Studio. So if you're opening in Visual Studio, you can see the SQL Server database, that is the MySQL, whatever database you have created. And again, you can add your SQL Server, you can give it the name of the server, you can give the authentication, whatever you created, and connect. So once you connect, you can see all your database, you can see all your tables, all the storage and everything you can see from here. And once you drill down to that particular ASP.NET users and all, you can see like this person's details has been created.
Okay, but why it is showing in the Visual Studio? It is also an option in Azure.
Yeah, no, actually Visual Studio has the option to connect to SQL Server and show you the data. So you can use SQL Server Management Studio also, you can use Visual Studio, you can use Azure Storage Explorer. So there are a lot of options available. But normally developers will work in Visual Studio, so you can connect through Visual Studio. If you have a SQL Server SSMS also, from that also you can connect. So same way. So you basically you need to specify your server name, your authentication, and username, password, and connect it.
No, because why I'm asking is, I was speaking to someone, and then they
Okay.
were like saying that uh, this is, I mean, it's a Azure requirement actually. It's for interview purpose, and then they
Okay.
said that it is something to do with format. Let me try to find that email. And Azure with Visual Studio, they said. So I was a bit confused. What do you mean by Azure with Visual Studio or
Uh,
something?
Azure with Visual Studio can be a lot of options. I can have a virtual machine with Visual Studio already installed, something like a Visual Studio in the cloud. I can work with that
So
Visual
what
Studio with all my applications. But what do they mean by Azure with Visual Studio?
what they
Do
were
they mean
saying
like
is,
DevOps and all?
yeah, it is in DevOps, and they said that VSTS for analysis platform in Azure.
Okay, so that is the team service. So whenever you have a Visual Studio, if you go under the Teams, you can connect it to the team service. So team service, nothing but a version control. So in team service, basically you'll be storing all your code and everything.
Okay. Oh yeah, like a code repository. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So before, like in my company, we had VSTS, but now we have moved to Bitbucket.
Oh, okay, like a Team City, VSTS is also source code
Yes,
repository.
yes. It's
Oh, okay.
basically a code repository with version control and all will be there.
Okay, okay, like a configuration management tool,
Not exactly
like
configuration, but
SQL.
more like a code repository. Yeah, like SVN. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
SVN.
Okay.
Yes, that's a right example. SVN.
I thought you were saying something to do with Visual Studio. I was just like, okay, maybe something new. I was thinking about.
So you can always like ask them like what do they exactly mean like Visual Studio, because there are a lot of options with Visual Studio, right? So when we go into, so right now if you see like we have used Visual Studio in virtual machine class for deploying applications to the virtual machine and doing remote debugging and all. So now we are
Yeah.
seeing how to connect Visual Studio to SQL Server. So in web
Okay.
and mobile also, for everything we'll be using almost Visual Studio. So they are basically
Okay.
will create application, deploy it in Azure and all, Azure App Service and all. So that time also, Visual Studio is basically a development tool. So it will have a lot of options here to connect to different kinds of development environments.
Okay.
So exactly, like I'm not sure about the question, like what exactly they're looking for.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, it was just a call. Then I said that
Okay,
we'll have a look and I'll come back to them later.
okay, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the SQL database, if you come into the pricing tier, so here if you see under this overview, you'll have the pricing tier. So you can again scale your database from say
Okay.
5 DTU to 10 DTU. I want to scale it. So here,
Whenever
if you
as a
see
need.
like, yeah. So say
Or
for
will we
example,
get
there.
any recommendation, based on the usage and things like that? Will Microsoft give us any kind of recommendation stating that you can increase your DTU, or you should increase your DTU to get a better performance, something like that?
Actually, like if you see the application insights or how the application is performing, so from that you can have a normally like they will do a reporting for their senior level management and all, right? So from
Yeah.
that, the management will decide like whether they need to scale up, or they see like, okay, this application is working heavily use now, maybe in the next 3 months because of holidays and all it will go down, so let's not scale. So that way also it can happen. So another thing is automatic scaling and this auto scaling and all you can enable. So based on that, there'll never be a downtime. So if they see like there is a spike or there is anything, so the SQL server will automatically scale to manage it. But some things we have noticed is like whenever, say for example, like the space which was allotted, like if it is a 5 DTU basic pricing, and now 5 DTU is not enough, so they are having much more transactions in it. Then Microsoft will send you like mails and all stating like your transactions are going to hit the capacity or going to hit the limit. So would you like to increase the DTU? But the
Yeah.
problem is like for increasing the DTU, I need approval from the budget team, right? Because once budget is allocated only, I can go for that. So that's where like again I need to probe in and explain to them like, see, your application is going to hit the capacity, and if you allocate some budget, I'll increase the DTU. So that time mostly they will say like, no, it is happening now, or maybe in future we are not seeing this up and it will go down and all. So again, depending on their budget and all, they will increase it. That's it.
Yeah. I was having a recent issue with, I was creating some environments in,
Hmm.
by using Terraform. I was creating some environments, and
Okay.
when I was creating an environment, what happened was when I'm running the Terraform changes in Jenkins, I was
Okay.
getting a message stating that you have exceeded your. It was failing with the limit actually.
Okay. Okay.
So it was just saying that you 1 minute. Let me try to pull that. Yeah. So it was basically saying Azure virtual machines Linux is equal to 0, failure sending request. So it's saying that operation result in exceeding quota limit of the core, maximum allowed 700 and current use is 698. Additional request 8. So I've just raised a support ticket with Microsoft,
Okay.
and
Okay. Yeah.
they said that it has been resolved. It's been like
Okay.
2 tickets have been raised. Again, I'm running the same job. It is again failing with the same error. So,
Oh.
I was just wondering, this is how the support is going to be for Microsoft or something.
No, normally, like they will allocate a premier field engineer to you, PFE. So mostly, like what will happen is first we'll discuss with him, like whether he is able to help us resolve it or not. If he is asking, then we'll go and create a ticket. So normally he will say like go to and create a advisory case or a support ticket and all. And once you create a support ticket, so normally like we will not let the person close the ticket. So we'll always try to keep it open, asking for root cause analysis, or why it happened, how will this be resolved, what if it happens again, how will I be proactive, and also before the issue happens, can I know something, or is there anything to prevent the issue from happening? So all those things we will probe into it, and mostly they will send it to their product team for checking and all. And if product team has a fix, they will deploy it. Otherwise, it will go on like for 3 months, 6 months, and all. So that's how
Yeah.
the support is. Because most of the cases they will resolve it immediately. So if it is a small configuration change or anything, because they are also like people like us only working in here, Bangalore, or no,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Chennai
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that working.
Yeah.
So that's what like is their maximum
I
capability.
think they
So
outsource that as well. Yeah.
yeah, even I think Genpact and Accenture also is handling some tickets and all. So
Ah,
the
okay.
most like thing is like mostly it will, if it is going to the product group, then you can know that okay, it is going to take some time, but it may get resolved. And otherwise, they will ask you to create a user voice. So say for example, like I want some feature to be there. If it is, if you'll say like, okay, if this is done in this way, it will be better. Then they'll ask you to. There is a user voice. You go and upvote it. We will build it for you. So that way
Okay.
also they will do it. So mostly like what I think they do is they will build small things, prototype kind of things, and they will deploy it into the production. And when people start using it and start creating complaints or start making requests, based on that only they will build enhance it and all. So that, I don't know if there is that is the actual strategy behind it, but for as for an end user, it is very pathetic.
Yeah, it is, because they said it has been resolved, and then there is no other way to find it in Azure, I think. We got to run the job again. If the job takes 30, 40 minutes to run, as soon as it is running, it is just saying that this is what it is failing up with. So we got to kill the environment which we got created from Terraform. And another thing
Oh,
is, why are we using Terraform to create an environment? We can directly create like get into resource group, and then we can create
yeah.
VMs.
You can create VMs and you can create using PowerShell also. So we do it using PowerShell only. So
Oh,
I
okay,
think Terraform is specific to your organization. So I'm not sure about Terraform and all. So let me
okay,
look it up. So if I find anything, I'll let you know about that.
okay. They said Terraform it is a bit easy because there is already a configuration has been created for one environment. We're just going to
Okay,
replicate the
okay.
same configuration.
Okay, so basically like Terraform runs some service in the behind which does what our PowerShell is doing basically. So it basically like PowerShell it will be difficult for you to code and all. So Terraform is giving you a UI in which users select things and all, and internally it will generate the PowerShell or it will hit the Azure API and build something for you. I think the tool does that internally. So let me check it out. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Terraform, right? Let me just note it. Okay, so here, like if you see the once we increase it from say 5 DTU to 10 DTU, so the pricing tier has got increased from 5 DTU to 10 DTU now. And so this is how you can scale your particular SQL Server database. Basically. Okay, so next is Redis caching. Okay, so before going into Redis caching, yeah. So for backup and restoring of SQL Server database, so there are automatic backups which are always scheduled and they happen done by Microsoft and all. But if you want to perform some forcefully some backup and all, so you can read this particular article. So it will show you a good example of how the database recovery and using backups and all is done.
Okay.
Okay, so coming to Redis caching, so we already saw CDN. So basically, Redis caching is a little bit of enhanced CDN, you can say. So again, you're caching the data in some POP locations, and your application will be reading that cache data, and it will be showing it to the user. So
Yeah.
less hit will be happen to your origin server. So this is actually a open source Redis cache mechanism. So it is based on the popular open source Redis cache. So it is typically used as a cache to improve the performance and scalability of systems that rely heavily on backend data stores. So normally in case of CDN, you will be storing say photos, or you will store videos and all, or you will store GIFs and all, or some text data which is displayed in your page. But in Redis cache, you can actually store tables and all. So that is the main advantage of Redis cache. So say for example, one of my managerial team, they need a report to be shown to them, and that report will get generated every night. So
Okay.
basically, what application team does is they will build a particular mechanism which will collect the data from multiple tables and all in Azure SQL and Azure SQL or other services, and it will combine it into one big database, and that database will be stored in the cache.
Oh, okay.
Right. So the advantage is like, so okay. So we talked about OLTP, right? So online transaction processing. So similarly, something is called OLAP, that is online analysis processing. So in
Okay.
OLAP and OLTP, what is the difference? Is OLTP is more for writing data into it. So when you are writing data into the database, that time you need your database to be normalized. Right. So you need to have one primary table and lot of small tables and all. You can have, say, for example, like I'll have a basic employee table, and I can have employee personal details, employee work details. I can have a employee photo and other details. So that way I can have employee department and all I'll store. So one main table and small lot of connected tables with it. Right. So that
Okay.
is good when we are doing a write operation, because I'll be writing to the main table only, and the other tables I don't have to write to them. But when you're reading the data, that time it is always better to have a denormalized table or a one big table with lot of columns in it or lot of rows in it. So it is easier to read the data from a big space rather than joining lot of tables and getting the data out of it.
Yeah.
Right? So that time the Redis cache is helpful. So on the fly, if I'm firing the query to get the data from multiple tables, it will be slow. So mostly at night time, or a fortnightly or a weekly or a daily, they will be doing this, pulling this data from all this databases, building it into one big chunk of table and storing it somewhere in the Redis cache. and next day morning when the particular manager team is trying to access the report, so it will be fast, it will be downloaded to their machine. So this was happening like quite some time back, because nowadays if you see almost all this managerial team, they won't depend on Excel reports and all. So everybody wants a little bit of better looking reports, like a chart or should be there, or some graph should be there, or some based on some location or area it should be shown. So basically they will be going for Click View or Power BI or any other kind of business intelligence tool. So that
Yeah.
time this Redis Cache will be very helpful, because it will give you all the data into your, it will just pump all the data from your cache into your Power BI service, and your Power BI service or ClickView service can render the data in nice looking charts and pie charts, graphs, and like a map and all it can show. So differently you can manage the data and showcase to your management, because nobody likes to go through so many numbers and all. So if there is a chart, if there is a graph, it is easier to understand the behavior, how the application is progressing, or what is the usage happening.
Okay, but this all will be stored manually, or someone needs to do it, or how does okay, when we say CDN, we have to set that CDN in the first place. Yeah, so we have to
Yes.
similar ways Redis cache also needs to be created and set in the stored in the location or something.
Yes, so Redis cache also, so I'll show you in the demo. So basically you will need to create the Redis cache, and same like connection string and all, you need to hand it over to the application team. So the application team's job is to build their application in such a way that they can take advantage of this Redis cache. So you can
Okay,
mention to them like, we have a Redis cache in place, and you please use the Redis cache to improve the performance of your application.
okay, so we
And
have
so that
Redis cache. Okay.
yeah. So again, like if they have the, everything is like money, right? So if they have the budget for that, you can provision them a Redis cache.
Yeah, but again, it requires a special. What does it require? It requires any kind of VM configuration, storage configuration, or something, or
No,
that.
nothing. So everything is like PaaS service. Okay, let me show you the demo first then. So basically, like you'll go into new, so you under database, you can see like Redis cache is there. So if you see, you can have a MongoDB, Cosmos DB will look after this. So a lot of other options are there. So you can go for a Redis
Okay,
cache,
okay,
and here you can like specify your DNS name, your subscription, your resource group, and everything. So create. So here you can specify a pricing standard. So let it be like $40 per month or $66. So basically, you can see like you'll have this SSL and how many connections you can create to the cache.
okay,
Right. So this is like basic things. You can go for advanced things also, like $781 or $1,500 and all.
okay,
Okay. So again, a virtual network you need to configure here, and you can deploy your Redis cache. So this Redis cache will look like a SQL
okay,
server only. So if
okay,
you go inside it, you can have, like, you can see the overview, you can see the all the things. So again, access keys are there. So this access keys, you need to go into the access keys, or and you can get the connection string from here. So this connection string you need to give to your particular application team.
okay,
So
got it.
always give the secondary one and keep the primary one for yourself. Suppose like the secondary one is compromised or something has gone wrong with the secondary one, you can always ask them to log in through the primary one and change the secondary one, or you can refresh the secondary one. So regenerate the primary or regenerate the secondary, you can do that.
Okay,
So similarly for scaling also, you can scale it from a basic tier to a premium tier and all, you can scale it always. Okay, so firewall is also present in Redis cache also. You can configure that. So that will give you again the basic client IP address from where to where it should be hitting the Redis cache. So data persistence is something a little bit new to Redis cache. So here basically like there will be two options. That is one is Redis data backup and one is end of file. So what is Redis data backup is like basically every 60 minutes you can configure this also. So every 60 minutes you take a backup of my Redis cache and store it somewhere in the storage. So tomorrow, say your application team by mistake has put some wrong data into the cache and they want it to be reverted back. So you can take a backup and you can restore it for them.
okay. Every 60 minutes.
Yes.
What happens if it is okay? Every 60 minutes there will be a backup for sure.
Yeah, and you can just specify a storage account for that also, in which that particular Redis cache will be stored. And
Okay,
AOF backup is something like will output AOF files into the optional secondary storage. So again, this is like mostly like an end of file output. So whatever changes has happened only will get stored in case of AOF.
okay. Like what do you call?
Like
Oh,
a
I
delta
forgot the
change
name.
backup. So whatever has
Yeah, like a
changed only
differential
will get
backup.
yeah, differential backup. Yes, and RTB is like a full backup.
Okay.
Okay, so you can give a primary key if you have anyone, and basically again you can put your Redis cache into a subnet. So once this is configured in a subnet, and you'll have like your default subnet will be there, right, for your virtual machine or your virtual network. So now you have a Redis subnet also. So this is, if you see, this is 0.0, whereas this is 1.0. So once you have a Redis subnet, uh, I think we restarted. Yeah. So once you deploy it into a Redis subnet, it will work similarly to your CDN. How it works with a CDN.
Okay.
So here, like what I'm doing is basically I'm going inside the virtual machine and I'm doing a NS lookup basically to say it. And once I have this Redis cache deployed into my subnet, so I can take this particular host name of the Redis cache. And if I check for it, that is also getting configured here in the NS lookup. So this
Okay.
is how the Redis desktop manager will look like. So if you download and install this software, so what will happen is it will show you all the databases which is available under your Redis cache, and you can view them or play around with them from here itself.
Okay. But this
So this is
database,
basically
how does it created? Every time we do some operation, it creates automatic a database, or how does it create it?
these databases and all will be created by your application team. So when you are specifying them that connection string and all, right? So using those connection string, they will be able to create Redis databases, and they will be able to create tables and everything inside it.
Okay. Maybe they will enable and use that option actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is basically how the Redis cache works. Okay. So if required, I'll come back to the this images again. Okay. So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
no
was
problem.
saying, so which rely heavily on backend data stores, you'll be using Redis cache. So performance is improved by temporarily copying frequently accessed data to fast storage located close to the application. Okay, so with Redis cache, this fast storage is located in memory with Redis cache instead of being loaded from disk by a database. So instead of pulling your data from the database server, you can store it in Redis cache and pull data from Redis cache. And you can specify like every 1 hour or every day or every 15 minutes or something, update my Redis, keep updating my Redis cache. So that also you can specify.
Okay.
So can also be used as an in-memory data structure store. So distributed, non-relational. So non-relational because you won't have multiple tables and all. Basically, you'll have one giant table in a database from where you'll be getting your all the data. So you can also use it as a message broker. So message broker is basically like I will schedule a message into it, I'll queue a message into it, and it will send the message after some time, or some other application will read the message from where it is cache.
Okay.
So again, low latency, so high throughput performance of the Redis engine and all can be taken advantage of. So it gives you access to a secure, dedicated Redis cache managed by Microsoft, so hosted within Azure, and accessible to any application within or outside of Azure.
Okay.
Okay. So its features include like cache aside. So cache aside is basically they're talking like you can load the data as needed. So basically, like say for example, my data has got changed today. So then today I can load it, or if my data is getting changed in every week or every fortnight, also I can have that also.
Okay.
So cache content like headers, footers, master pages, and all. So you can have a user session caching. So you can use the cookie as a key to query the data in a backend database. So this is basically like I'll store a cookie in my Redis cache, and using that cookie, I can query the backend database. I don't have to hit the backend database with the full query. So using the cookie only, I can query the database and get the data. So again, job and message queuing, you can have this, and distributed
So when you say
transactions.
cookie,
Yeah.
what does it exactly means? Cookie is a script or something like that?
Cookie is actually basically you can, if in simple layman terms, cookie will be like a basically 64-bit character a long text. Okay,
Okay.
so it is actually what will happen is when user session caching is involved. So say for
Yeah.
example, I'm doing a shopping in Amazon or I'm doing a shopping in Flipkart. So when I add things to my cart and I go into different tabs, say same thing I will open in multiple tabs, my cart value is retained. Right, so that is how my session caching is working, and that particular application, let it be Flipkart or Amazon, knows that this person has added 5 items in this a particular tab, whereas he is going to another tab and he's adding again 5 more items. So I should show 10 items, right? So that's how the cookie is keeping the track of it. And next, when I go into checkout or when I'm buying the stuff or anything, so that time again using this cookie only, they will be checking in the database whether the item is still available or not.
Okay.
Right? So they don't have to hit my database with all the items which I have in my bucket. They'll be using this cookie to hit the database and get the item. So basically, a cookie is a small file which stores a minimum amount of information, using which you can query the database and get the data.
Okay.
So distributed transactions are also there. So distributed transactions is basically like a batch of commands or executing as a single operation. So normally in case of banking and all, we'll have distributed transactions. So whenever, like say for example, I'm transferring some money to someone, so there will be multiple transactions happening. Like money, first the request will be going, then money will be getting deducted, then money will be getting transferred, then a response is coming. So these are the 4 basic things. But similarly, there will be multiple batches of transactions happening. So now with the bringing in of IMPS and mostly IMPS and UPI and all, so the transactions will be much more compared to the older days when only NEFT and RTGS were there.
Okay.
So those kind of transactions also can be managed with Redis caching. Yeah, so similar concept like CDN. So when a user is accessing say a virtual machine for some application and all, and it is going into the database server. So if you see here, this is not a Azure SQL server. They have a virtual machine in which SQL server is deployed.
Okay.
Right. So here it is pulling in the data and storing it in virtual machine and also getting stored in Azure cache or Redis cache. So when the second user is hitting, they will be hitting the Redis cache and they will be getting the data from here.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Right. So here I have the same steps and all whatever we discussed. Yeah. So this is basically how we do a deal with a Redis cache. So we'll deploy the Redis into a new subnet, and we'll be using that subnet instead of the default subnet. Okay. It's almost 10 o'clock. Is it fine? Like, can we cover Cosmos DB today? Cosmos DB, Cosmos DB, I have like 4 to 5 slides only. So, okay. So let me go take you through the demo. Maybe I'll forward you the slides. You can go through the slides later.
Yeah.
Okay. So Cosmos DB is basically, okay, I need the first slide. Okay. So Cosmos DB is Microsoft's globally distributed and multi-model database. So with the click of a button, so Cosmos DB enables you to elastically and independently scale throughput and storage across any number of Azure's geographic locations. So it offers throughput, latency, availability, and all the things which Azure provides you in a little bit better way. So Cosmos DB is Azure's own product, so that's why they promote Cosmos DB a lot. Okay, so this is how like it is designed across the globe, and also you can see like it is present in multiple locations and all. And key capabilities are global distribution, so multiple data models, so elastic and independently scaling throughput, so highly responsive and mission critical applications is good for Cosmos DB. So always on availability and globally distributed applications you can write. So they have some good money back guarantees also on that. This is important. So no database schema or index management. So this is why this is, I'll tell you. So it is not actually a database, or it is not actually a schema based database. It's not having a table structure and all. So that's the reason they have mentioned no database and low cost of ownership. So I've given
How does it work?
details
If it is going to be no database, no schema, something. So how does it work?
I'll show you. I'll show you. So that's the best part. So this is a comparison, and also you can go through this, how Cosmos DB is better than relational or NoSQL database, and the small things which you can do in Cosmos DB so that you can see. Okay, so coming for the demo. Okay, so basically same way. So new Azure Cosmos DB you'll select and create a Cosmos DB. So here you can give again your ID, your API, say document DB or SQL API you want to use, so subscription, resource group, location and all. So when I took the screenshots, actually these were in this way, but now I think the look and feel has changed. It is coming in upper tabular structure. So that is like basically the look and feel has changed, but data will be again same.
Okay.
So once you click on create, you'll have a Cosmos DB created. So if you go inside the Cosmos DB, so here what happens is instead of tables, they have something called collections. So create item collections, one thing will be there. So if you click on it, so basically you'll be adding a collection to your particular Cosmos DB. So collection is nothing, but it's a simple JSON, what we can say, JSON file collection or JSON collection, where you'll have this. So I'll have, like, say, a JSON file with, say, customer name, and ID is one, type is customer, name is Mike. So 3 details about a customer I'm having. So this file, I can create it in Cosmos DB. So I'll come back to the pricing. So basically, I'll add the customer's collection here, and initial throughput and all. I'll say, okay, specify the bit one. So basically, the less one is 400, so I can give 400. And for my timing, I can go for a fixed 10 GB. So if required, I can make it unlimited also.
Okay.
So next thing is partition key. So partition key is something like you want them to be there in all your JSON files. So say, for example, my partition key, I'll keep it as country. So I'll request all my JSON files to have this country partition key. So I can have a database, a sales database, and now I have a customers collection. So when I say collection, it's a collection of JSON files. Okay. So when I go inside customers, I'll have these 3 things, that is Document Explorer, Query Explorer, and Script Explorer. So Document Explorer is basically, I can go to Document Explorer, I can click on Create. So if you see here, customers is already selected, and it will ask me to create a new document. So here I'll paste the JSON, that is ID equal to 1, country is US, name is Mike, and I will save it. So now I have 1 record in my particular customers collection. Right. So this 1 record is having this 3 row and columns of data. So I can have a second file in which I have an extra thing, that is city. City is San Diego. So I can save it, and I'll have similar collections and all. So what is the beauty of it is I don't have a schema. So I'm not specifying that one file can have only these many columns. One file can have multiple columns. They can have multiple values and all. So as you like it. So even like inside this say name, I can put another 2 brackets, and I can give like first name Mike, last name say Chandan. Right. So it gives me the power to store the data the way I want it. Right. Instead of having a normal, like a relational database with some columns and all, so I can store the data the way I want it. Okay. So the advantage here is I'm able to store the data I want it, right? So, but the disadvantage, you will feel like, how do I query the data? How do I get multiple data or large amount of data within a fraction of seconds? So for that, they have something called a Query Explorer. So if you go inside the Query Explorer, so here if you see, you can query the particular sales database with the customers collection using a SQL query. Right. So if I do a select star from no particular customers table C, where country is equal to US, so I'll get all my data in JSON format. Whichever files have country as US, they will be retrieved.
Okay.
Right. Excellent. Right. So I can store the data the way I want it. I can fire SQL queries and get the data in JSON format. Then see, JSON format, if it is coming, then again it is much lighter, because I'll have just the text values. I won't have any structure or anything associated. So this JSON, I can again use it in my code to display in various ways, like a mobile application or a web application, or however the way I want it.
Okay.
So that's the beauty of it. I can store data the way I want it in JSON files. I can retrieve the data using select queries. So you can fire SQL queries over JSON files. So that's the beauty of Cosmos DB. Okay, so coming to the pricing. Okay, so say for example, this file only I want to take the pricing. I can upload that particular file to the pricing calculator, and say for example, I'll say like I'll have 5,000 documents, and 1 document will be created per second, 1 document will be read per second. And so how much it will be calculating, it will come is like 24 resource units only it is coming, which is coming to around 0.28 MB for 5,000 documents. Right, so it will be very, very cost effective and cheap and all. So that's the reason Azure is more promoting Cosmos DB rather than other databases, because if they are also using SQL and all, they need to manage the infrastructure, they need to manage the virtual machines and all, right? So in case of Cosmos DB, it is still, since it is just JSON files, that's why it is more advantageous, and they don't have to manage all this infrastructures and anything. So it's just files getting stored somewhere, and where you can put a SQL query and get it also.
Okay.
So that's the main advantage of Cosmos DB. Okay, so like I've bombarded you with a lot of information in a short span of time, so I'll.
No, I don't think it is. It is useful. No, I can relate. I've just made a note of small points actually. So if I think of that, I didn't feel that is so much of a thing.
Okay, okay, then it is fine. So I have a small DevOps project in this particular labs, and also just check it out if you have some time.
Okay.
I'm also planning to take a small DevOps class for you. So we'll see. Like basically, I will show you how to connect with GitOps and all. What are deployment slots and how do you
Yeah.
change the production and what staging environment and also those things. Basically, I'll take through. I don't have any Jenkins or Ansible or anything. So basically, Git and Visual Studio. These two will be my area of
Yeah.
coverage.
That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. I use Git as well, so it should be
Okay,
somewhere.
okay, yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay, no problem. So
Okay,
we'll
Karthik.
try to
So
catch up probably tomorrow with some other additional stuff.
yes,
Maybe
yes.
I'm just planning for a holiday in a couple of weeks actually. So
Okay,
by
yeah,
that
yeah,
time,
yeah.
I'll you'll be in Chennai only, right?
I am traveling on November 21st. So till that
Ah,
I'm in
okay.
Chennai. So from
Okay.
21st till 8th I'll be on vacation. So apart from the storage, so we don't have like we'll need maybe like 4 to 5 classes maximum. So because
Okay.
identity and application will take almost 2 to 2.5 classes, and web and mobile services will take 2 classes. So in this I'll put the DevOps project into it.
Okay.
Okay, so this will be
What I'm
like
trying to do
two.
is now possibly if I can, I'll be there in Chennai in first week of November.
Okay,
So I'll try to meet you or something. And what I wanted
sure,
to
sure.
know is I'll just bring my laptop with me along with me. So I just wanted
Okay,
to do that the setup of Azure, yeah, installing the Azure and everything with you in person. Probably we're having most of the classes in online only. Maybe
right,
that
right.
that kind of session, if you have one session, it should be useful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But
No, but
installing in the sense like everything is in cloud, right?
no. Possibly registering with the Azure and then taking. I mean, setting up the resource group, setting up the networking. I
Yeah,
will
yeah, yeah.
try to do a session and
Right, right.
possibly creating it on own rather than having a look at the document. It will be useful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes, yes.
But it's again, it is an optional only. I was just thinking about since I'm coming. If not,
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah,
can just
because
stick with
I'll be
this one.
available, so not a problem.
No,
So here in
again,
Chennai, like
yeah,
which area you will be coming into?
I am in Porur basically.
Okay, 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 okay. Fine.
No, we
So
will
I
sort it out.
am,
Don't
yeah,
worry. Where are
no
you put
problem.
up?
Torepakam, okay, impact.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem. I'll come around or we'll arrange something. Don't worry.
Sure,
But
sure, sure,
anyways,
not a problem.
it's up to you. And whenever you are free, I am flexible. I'll be there for 2 weeks. So
Okay,
any
okay.
point of time in the 2 weeks, whenever you get some time, I don't want to mess up your schedule. So whenever
Nothing,
you
no
have
problem,
any
no
kind
problem.
of free time, we can catch hold of it. Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. So in Porur also we do have an institute, but I'm not sure where exactly that is. And here in OMR also, like we have the institute, so there only I will be mostly taking the classes. So we can meet
Okay.
up, not a problem.
Yeah. Well, I'll just come to the institute and we'll have a 1 hour session or something. Then it should be
Sure,
easy. Yeah.
sure, sure. Sure,
Okay.
Karthik.
Thanks, and then I'll see you tomorrow then.
Sure, Karthik.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.